Hey, if you're a beginner struggling to get your right foot up and running so that you're nailing kick drum patterns and you're able to play your favorite songs, and you're tired of working boring coordination drills that are supposed to get you there, then today's lesson is for you. It is critical that you have a well-coordinated, locked-in right foot that can play independently of your other limbs. But getting there doesn't have to mean sacrificing music, creativity, and fun in your practicing. Stick with me today and I'll give you a more fun musical approach to building the foot coordination you need for nailing kick patterns, learning grooves more quickly, and even improvising your own patterns. This will be a lot of fun. You can do this. Welcome to The Non-Glamorous Drummer. I'm so glad you're hanging out today. I help self-taught beginner drummers know what to practice so that you can nail songs and sound awesome playing with a band and be that drummer other people want to have in their band. That's what I want for you, and I hope this lesson helps you get a little closer to that. And hey, I also have a free gift for you in the description that's gonna help you out a ton. If you're dealing with a weak hand, every drummer starts out dealing with a weak hand, unless you're tremendously lucky. Odds are one of your hands just does not work as well as the other. So you hear that galloping in your singles, and it messes up your fills and just causes your drumming to feel crippled. If that's you, I want to help you here. I've got a really cool e-guide that's going to help you out called 3 Daily Pad Exercises for Fast, Fluid Hands. Solve your weak hand, build the fluid, quick chops that you need to actually play fast fills around the drum set, and do all of this with just 3 simple pad exercises. If there were only 3 exercises you could practice, there were just 3 pad exercises to practice every day, let it be these 3, and it'll only take you 30 minutes a day. This will help you so much with evening out your hands so that you've got the speed and control you need to move around the kit smoothly, fluidly, in time, and ultimately as fast as you want. So that's my free gift to you. Go grab the e-guide, total no-brainer. It's in the description. So I remember getting to a place in my playing where I had decent right foot coordination because I'd practiced all the exercises and drills, like I mentioned a minute ago. I think this was kind of when I was at the intermediate point. I was kind of getting out of high school into college. I've been playing for a few years and I was playing with people. And so I was getting pretty good at the drums and had pretty decent 4-way coordination, but I was struggling to play kick drum patterns consistently, like actually play them well, which is critical to learning songs, obviously. But ultimately the problem was that I couldn't create variations or improvise on those kick drum patterns. So I might learn a song and I might be able to play the kick drum pattern, but if I had to change it, that's where I run into trouble. I'm guessing you can relate to that. A lot of my students have told me that's the struggle. Like, first, step 1 is learning the kick drum pattern, and once you get that down, okay, what about improvising? What about shifting it? What about changing it as it develops throughout the song? That becomes the big challenge. And that's where I was. And I was kind of stuck there until I increased my awareness of what my right foot was actually doing. So ultimately, this goes a little bit beyond coordination. We are talking about coordination today and a fun way to build it, but ultimately we're talking about right foot awareness. How do you really lock in your brain and your ear with that right foot so that you can do whatever you want to with it and improvise with it? That's what we want to be able to do. So that's what I want to share with you today. Learn these 3 kick melodies that I'm showing you, then follow the steps to deeper right foot awareness so that you can improvise and nail whatever patterns come your way. This will be a lot of fun. So here are the 3 kick melodies. Here's what we're getting at. You know, you can practice all sorts of kick drum coordination exercises, and some of them may or may not be musical, and that's a lot of times the problem. A lot of drummers just want to practice something that feels like a groove, that feels like a song. So that's what we're going to do. Now, these aren't going to be easy if you're a beginner. They're simple, but they're not necessarily easy. So take your time with these, because what we're doing is we're taking a fairly syncopated kick drum pattern and we're applying it in 3 different places in a groove. So for example 1, I'll just play it for you, then I'll explain a little bit of what I'm doing. This is what the groove is. Pretty simple groove. It almost has kind of like a hip hop feel, like if we played it slower. It sounds like one of those grooves you hear from the car next to you at the stoplight with the massive bass. Anyways, a groove that you hear in plenty of songs and a rhythm that you hear all the time. And that's actually a dotted 8th note rhythm. But that's besides the point. It doesn't matter what we call it or how we analyze it. It's basically happening every 3/16 notes. So we're going So the challenge here is playing that while keeping the eighth note timekeeping going with your right hand. And that's the first thing that you need to practice doing before even adding in a backbeat. So sitting here and going 1 E, 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. 1 E, 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. What's happening here is you're having to teach your right foot to not just play with your right hand, but also to play in between, like that. And so if that's the hiccup, then let's go even more fundamental building blocks. Just practice going, because that's like prerequisite number one. You've got to make sure your right foot can play not with your right hand, playing in between it instead. But if you can do that, and you can do, then it's just a matter of counting this out and going 1 E, 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. 1 E, 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. And 1 E, 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. And that's the cool thing, it starts to feel like a groove, especially as you go a little faster. Really slow, it might feel a little weird, but as you can get it up to tempo, it starts to feel really cool, and you realize, okay, this is a kick drum pattern I might actually use in a song. Whether or not it's just like that, you can probably think of a song right now that uses something like that. And so this kind of pattern is very worth learning, and you're already learning to put the kick drum on all sorts of different parts of the beat, and yet it has this cool feel to it, and it's fun to play, and you can use it in songs. But we've got two more of these. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take the same dotted eighth note pattern though. 1 E, and 2 E, and 3 E, and 4. It's happening every 3/16. But it's not triplets, it's just happening every 3/16. And we're gonna shift it over. So for our second melody, our second rhythm here, we're gonna start it on the E of 1. Now this is gonna be a little weird because that means we play nothing on beat 1. This is a skill that you need to be able to have if you want to play something reggae-ish, where you don't play on beat 1. But it's also a really good thing to be able to do, to not play where your brain wants you to play, and so be able to step outside of that box. So here's what the second one sounds like. And then I hit the downbeat right there to end it. So you could hear how every time 1 E, and 2 E, and 3 E, and 4 E. It's really weird the way it shifts over. So this one's kind of challenging, but again, practice it just with right hand and right foot, knowing that the first kick drum note happens right after beat 1. 1 E, and 2 E, 3 E, and 4 E. 1 E, and 2 E, and 3 E, and 4 E. And then after we hit that, the E of 4, then we have a little break before we get to the E of 1 again. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4. And then that's how it feels as we add in the backbeat. So take that slowly, a step at a time, counting it out. 1, E, and 2. You're learning to basically put your right hand on autopilot while thinking about what the right foot is doing. And that's really important here. Your timekeeping hand has to become autopilot, where it works without you having to devote much brain power to it. That way, instead, you can focus on your right foot. And so remember I said this is all about awareness. We're trying to build awareness of what our right foot is doing, so we're not just regurgitating something we heard, which is kind of the easy thing to fall into if we're only playing kick drum patterns like this. You know, that's the kind of beginner stuff that we always learn at first, simple eighth bass patterns, and that's fine, that's a good place to start. But generally what happens if that's all you do is your right foot is stuck following your right hand, and you're not actually thinking that much about really what your right foot is doing. You get stuck in this box, stuck in this lane of right foot just kind of doing its, its thing, keeping its head down and staying in its lane, and it can't step out of that. But as soon as you learn some of these weird patterns and you're actually having to really focus a lot of attention to your right foot while keeping that simple eighth note timekeeping with your right hand the same, then you build a lot of awareness, you build a lot of independence, and it's pretty cool what happens. All right, one more melodic rhythm here that also feels really cool. That same dotted eighth pattern, but now we're going to start on the and of one. So first we started on one, then we started on the E of one, now we're going to start on the and of one. And that's pretty much all the places we can play it, because if we started on the of one, we would also be starting on beat one. So really we have these three options for how we can do it. So here's how this one goes. I'll play you the full thing first. So if we break it down really slow, 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. So we're starting on the end of 1, we're finishing on the and of 4. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and. Just like that, but as always, practice it just with the right hand and the right foot before you add in the back beats. 1, 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Practicing it over and over again, and definitely don't miss that a really important thing to do here is practice this over and over again, because coordination only happens when there's repetition. And it also only happens at slow tempos. If you're playing something so fast that it's like it's skimming past your brain, you're not really comprehending it. The slower you play something and the more times you play it slowly, that's how you're really creating those new pathways in your brain, and you're really learning this. You're really listening to your right foot. You're paying attention to what it's doing. You're increasing your awareness of your right foot. So that's important. Go really slow with these. No faster than 70. You can even go 60, maybe down in the 50s. That's probably where I was. I didn't have a metronome in my ear, but I was definitely not going fast. So go really slow. Practice them over and over again. At that point, you've got a significant amount of awareness happening, but we're not quite done yet. There's a couple of really cool bonus things that I want you to do here. So really, these are just tips on finding and creating your own kick melodies, because we want to be able to improvise. So the number one way to the best way to improvise, students have asked me this before, like what's a good way to like figure out how to improvise? The best way to do it is to make up something and then play it. Come up with a rhythm, like hear a rhythm or a melody or something in your head, and then just play it. Now the key here is you've got to own it, and you've got to say, all right, here's my rhythm, I'm going to play it, this is it, I'm going to figure it out, I'm going to figure out how to play this rhythm in my head, and then I'm going to play it over and over and over again. So maybe the rhythm you come up with is something like boom, boom, ka, boom, 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 ka, boom. A lot of times it helps too, not to just think of kick drum pattern, but also to think about how the snare fits into that. So you're thinking of a groove, boom, boom, ka, boom, 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 ka, boom, boom, ka, boom. Whatever you can think of in your head, then try to play it. Add in some timekeeping, do it over and over again. A lot of times the holdup with improvisation, the mental roadblock that a lot of people have is, well, whatever I'm coming up with isn't really a complete idea. It's not really good enough. It's not going to sound good. And so they get stuck there and they don't really own it and say, all right, here's my idea, I'm going to play it. So whatever you come up with, even if it's weird, even if it's like, honestly, that's not weird. That still sounds cool. Sometimes the less notes you play, the better. I don't think there's anything you can come up with that's bad. It might be a little strange. It might not be something you hear in every song, but whatever you come up with, own it and say, I'm going to play this over and over again until I learn it, until it becomes second nature. Then repeat that process of making up something, playing from your ear, not your hands or your feet, playing from your ear, then translating that. That's a key step to being able to play what you hear in your head. Yes, practicing coordination exercises and drills can help you get there, but yeah, it gets kind of boring. I think this is more fun. If we want to play what's in our head, what better way to do that than playing what's in our head? We just have to make ourselves do it. And so many times there's mental roadblocks with that of feeling like you can't come up with stuff. Everybody is creative. You are creative. You can do this. You just have to make yourself do it. Nobody's born improvising. You just have to do it, and you can absolutely do this. Another idea is you could take a rhythm from a song. So whatever song you've got playing in your head, whatever you can think of, and just regurgitate that. It doesn't have to be an original idea. And really, there's nothing new under the sun. Probably something original you come up with has already been played somewhere else, unless it's just really, really, really weird, like from a Tool song or something. But even if you come up with something weird, hey, Tool probably already did it, right? So come up with a rhythm, whether it's yours that you made up or it's from a song and then practice applying that and just practice doing it. But there's one more thing I want to give you that might really help you out a lot with this. I know it really helped me out a lot in terms of that kick drum awareness. I told you about how I was stuck in this place where I could play the kick drum pattern from a song, but a lot of times I wasn't consistent with it. I was forgetting how it went. And if I needed to create a variation on it or change it, well, I couldn't do that, and I couldn't make up one. That was where I was stuck. I was at a strange place in my playing where I kind of had the chops to play a lot of notes, but none of it sounded very good. I could play a lot of fast, busy, sloppy stuff that didn't actually sound good. So when I showed up to my first percussion lesson in college, so I had just turned 18 years old, I've been playing for a few years, and I thought, I'm a decent drummer, I can play a lot of cool stuff. And I remember my percussion teacher sitting me down at the drum set and saying, okay, play me something, let's see where we're at. And so I played something that was probably sloppy, probably way too many notes and didn't sound good, because I remember her reaction was, play something simpler, like just play something really simple without all the extra notes. And I couldn't do it. It was the weirdest thing where I couldn't strip it all down and play simply. It's like it made me anxious. It put me on edge. I was getting tenser because I couldn't play so few notes. And she said, okay, hold up. Just play the Billie Jean beat, just simple money beat. And so I tried to make myself do it, and it was so hard. And she said, all right, here's what you're going to do. Play the simple money beat over and over again until it actually feels natural, until you feel okay playing it. Then add in one new thing, and then loop that until it feels good. Then add one more new thing. And so after, 10 minutes of playing nonstop, I've added like 4 new notes. But the point is, I know what those 4 notes are. And I'm actually listening to myself and becoming aware of what I'm playing. And that was huge. That was tremendous. I want you to do the same thing, because what happens here, when you strip down your groove and you say, all right, I'm just going to play money beat. It's so simple that you're having to really pay attention to what you're doing. Then if we say, all right, let's add in one new kick note after 4 bars. Here we go. You could also do that. So in that case, I actually moved one of the kick notes. I didn't add a new one, I actually moved it. So you could take a different approach. You can do whatever you want to do here of either layering, adding new notes each time, or moving a note and changing one thing every 4 bars. The point is, you're paying attention to what your right foot is doing and you're being intentional about it. This worked wonders for my kick drum awareness, my ability to play kick drum patterns well and consistently and make up my own. This will help you so much with getting out of that box of being stuck playing the same kick drum patterns over and over again. This will help your groove creativity so much, your right foot independence so much, and your right foot awareness so much. There's a whole bunch of wins here. And so I know we've kind of sped through this. My advice to you is take this and run with it. Remember that kind of the name of the game here is pay attention to what your right foot is doing. Don't just skim through exercises. That's what tends to happen with exercises and drills. We kind of just skim through them. We're checking boxes. But if we can make it musical and make it fun, then we're actually going to listen more. We're going to pay more attention. The biggest thing that happened to me after that percussion lesson was I stopped playing from my hands and from my feet, and instead I started playing from my ear. So the ideas started here, and then I translated them. I got better at playing what I heard in my head instead of just letting stuff happen down here and not fully being aware of what I was doing. I want the same for you. It's going to help you so much with feeling confident. You'll feel like a total pro, and you'll be able to learn songs faster and nail kick drum patterns faster Not to mention, bass players will enjoy playing with you a lot more because you'll be consistent. That was one of my problems. Bass players were like, hey man, you keep changing the kick drum pattern on me. And I was like, oh, really? I didn't realize that. And so I was so ignorant of what my right foot was doing, but now suddenly I was able to pay a lot more attention to it and be consistent. And so I hope the same for you. If you practice this stuff, you practice those weird coordination exercises that were fun and musical, hopefully. I hope they're fun for you. I know they have been for me. And you do that exercise of, play a groove, and then once it feels good, add one new thing. And once that feels good, add one new thing. Do all this stuff, and you will have a well-coordinated, locked-in right foot that plays independently of the other limbs so that you're learning new patterns quickly and even improvising your own, which is an awesome feeling. So, question for you before you go. What do you find harder to do? Playing the kick drum pattern you hear in a song or making up your own? Kind of interesting because different people go different ways. Maybe you have a hard time, playing the exact one you're supposed to play, or maybe you're really good at figuring that out. And okay, here's my kick drum pattern, but then you have a hard time deviating from it. So let me know which of those you are. Which is harder, playing the one kick drum pattern or improvising? Let's get a conversation going. Let me know in the comments below. And hey, before you go, don't forget about that e-guide I told you about earlier. If you have a weak hand, if your hands are not even, and you just want to be able to play fast, fluid fills around the kit, but maybe you're on a time crunch, you got 30 minutes a day, maybe you can't make a lot of noise, so you're having to spend a lot of time on your practice pad, this is the resource for you. 3 daily pad exercises for fast, fluid hands. If there were just 3 exercises that I could practice every day on my pad, it would be these 3 that are so beneficial across the board into your full drum set skills. They'll help you a bunch too, so be sure to grab those. As always, know that you can do this. You can be a creative drummer, you can make up cool stuff, and you can nail songs. You can accomplish this. You just have to take action, stay patient, but be encouraged knowing that you can absolutely do this. Hey, if I can do it, you can definitely do it. As always, stay non-glamorous. I'll see you on the next lesson.